Hello folks, and welcome back to Learn Synthesis with VCV Rack Series 2. I'm your host, Dr. Lawrence W. Moore, and in this series, for the first 3 episodes now, we've been going through the Befaco set of free modules for VCV Rack, which in and of itself is free and has plenty of free modules. Basically, throughout this second series, we're going through different module libraries and looking at what they have, and I'm highlighting the things that I find very useful from them. And today's no exception. In Befaco, which we've been going through, there's a few more modules that I want to show you that are concentrated on percussion as well as noise generation. And I've been playing with them this afternoon, and I found some really useful stuff. So without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so what I have called up here is a MIDI to gate. We'll be using this for some of the percussion stuff. MIDI to CV, all from the basic VCV Rack set, which I think they call fundamental, but basically I showed you way back in Series 1, Episode 1, how to make sure you have all the VCV modules that are free by browsing the library and filtering it down to the VCV brand and free. And I have my audio output right here. What I have here are 2 Befaco modules, and that's the libraries that we're looking at right now. And this one, new for us in this series, it's called Kickall, and basically it's a kick drum. I hook up its audio output here using red, which I like to use for audio cables. I'm going to plug it into here. I don't remember if I've shown this mixer yet, but it's also a Befaco module. It has 4 stereo inputs with level control and a 5th stereo input without level control. This is just automatically set to maximum. And then it has a stereo out. You can use them as mono or stereo. Basically, use the left channel if you're doing mono. But I will be doing stereo further on in this episode. So I'm going to hook up the left and right outs to my audio. And I have the kick going right into left here, mono, and it'll automatically sound centered. If it only senses one cable connected on left, it will, and nothing on right, it will automatically and center. So I can click this trigger here so we can hear what it is. It's a kick drum, and it has a few parameters that are very useful. Up here is a tune parameter. Now, before I do this, because I want to make this a little bit easier on me triggering the sound rather than clicking trigger, I'm going to bring over my MIDI to gate module here. And this outlet is hooked up to C3. You can, of course, change it, but I like my kick drum to be on C3. So I'm going to go with that. Now I'm using the keyboard, and the gate is giving the note on, note off messages. I think all you need for this is really a trigger. It doesn't even need to be gate, but using MIDI, this is the way to do it, really. So you have a bunch of useful parameters like tune, So this really can be a tom drum if you want. And you hear it has a high frequency component to it to help it speak through the mix. We'll be working with some noise later, so you'll be able to see how to add noise to it. In Series 1, I did a kick drum using just the VCV modules and showed you how to use a noise component to get that punch, the brightness of the punch, you know, the beater hitting the head, that allows it to speak through the mix. All right, so I just put it down more towards a kick sound. You have here a wave shape section where it balances between being a sine wave and a square wave. In Series 1, I talked about the harmonic components of them. And basically what I'd be doing by turning this up is adding harmonics to the waveform. Just the odd harmonics approaching, eventually ending up, if you turn it all the way up, as a square wave. Okay, so obviously, somewhere around there, I kind of like it. It has this nice, deep sub-audio component, but also because of the harmonics being added here, it would also carry through on speakers that don't carry sub-audio. So that way you can kind of use tune and this in combination with one another, hear them on different speakers, and see which one gives you the best of both worlds, where you get a good sub-audio bass with something that carries that, as well as enough kick there that people listening to it on other speakers can at least still hear kick drum. You want your stuff to sound good on both kinds of systems. All right. Up here, we also have an input for level. We can use that with velocity. I like to use blue cables these days for velocity. That's a soft touch and harder. So you see the level did come up a bit. Here we have a slider for decay time. And over here we have a bend and a time knob that kind of work together. Bend gives you a bend in pitch. And it seems to be from high to low, so it's like a fall off. And time is how quickly it does that. Now, when you're using time here to control how quick the bend is, remember your decay will also have an effect on that. If your decay is too short and your time's too high, you won't hear the full amount of bend because this is cutting it off. So you got to be a little bit cognizant of that. Here we can have our time, and we also have shape, which is this big knob in the middle, the wave shape, sine to square wave. And we even have our decay time receiving inputs. I'm going to hook one at a time up to velocity so we can hear the difference when I hit keys with different velocity. Now I'm using just the regular MIDI to CV module here for velocity. If I were to use its gate, we would hear gate affecting this on whatever note gets played. Okay, so in this case, since we're going to be adding more drums, I want it to just be on C. So I'm using the MIDI to gate input for that. And then since the gate triggers this kick drum, at the same time that's hit, the velocity for that key should be coming through so that the velocity is We'll see later. Hopefully the velocity will just be affecting kick. But if you have two different drums hitting at the same time and velocity is going somewhere else also, one velocity at a time will be accepted. Well, anyway, we'll get to that later. Let's see here. With time now, the time of the bend being affected by velocity, well, actually, no. If you look at this, we're going to scroll in here. You'll see a second mouse cursor appear. The big one's me, the other one's just an effect of the magnifier. This actually says time. I looked at that before and I was like, okay, this really does say time with an M up here. Trust me, even though the cable's covering it, it does say time with an N. And this says time. This might be kind of a word meaning combination of time and bend. So if I hit it soft, there's not as much of a bend and it's shorter. I hit it hard and we got something. And then that, so obviously, that's all just hitting with different velocities. And there's a big difference depending on what velocity you hit with. That could be fun, definitely. But if you want a kick drum, probably not something you want. That's the shape. So obviously if I hit with a harder velocity, we get a buzzier square wave. Softer velocity, we get more of a sine wave. And there are different process modules, both from VCV and Befaco, where you could kind of invert it, where you can invert the velocity to get the opposite if you so desire. But right now it's set to be softer velocities. We'll go with sine, approach and go further towards where as you go. Now, if I turn this all the way down here, I actually like that kind of better, because then I don't know, the range between sine and square sounds a little better to me. And then, now these can all be affected by other things. You can use envelopes on them. And a broad range of different control voltage things, like even an LFO. So, although, having an LFO doing it, you don't know where it's going to be at in the waveform. But if you want to randomize things a little bit, with a rhythm, you can use an LFO to kind of change this as well. Let's try the last one here. That's decay time. So basically, if I hit soft, decays quicker. Hit harder, it decays longer. But you may want to adjust this so you get the range that you want. And as you play with your finger on the keyboard, you can, or drum pad if you're using that, you can basically kind of tailor it for your feel. So let's say I'm happy with this and we're all cool beans here. Good. Let's move on and add something else. I should probably show this before I do more drums, just because it is part of the percussion possibilities. There is a step sequencer in the Befaco set. Well, there's actually two. This one here is kind of like a hybrid of some things. I played with it earlier. It's got like 8 triggers on it that can trigger steps, basically, speed control, things like that. but not as much step sequence or functionality as this one here. This is something I guess you could play with on your own if you want a little bit. It's pretty straightforward, except it is also technically part sample and hold and part oscillator. In the series, we haven't really gone over sample and hold yet. We can talk about that later, and you can revisit this if you wish. There's also sample and hold in the VCV set. But this one is what I find to be more useful as a step sequencer. And we're dealing with percussion here, so how about that? So I'm going to move this gate over to here. Let me make sure I got the right one. There's individual gates for each step, and then there's all gates. So as each gate is reached, as each step is played in the sequence, you will get an output. So there's 8 steps here. To turn this on, you kind of flick this switch up. And then you want to flick it down and it'll finish the rest of the row and then stop. It's kind of like dragging up, dragging down slightly. Takes a little getting used to, but yeah, there you go. Let's see here. Where is it? Here's the speed control. And there's an inlet for play and reset right here. So I guess a gate or a trigger could be sent to this to trigger starting it and then resetting it. There isn't really a stop here though. So this is play, and this is almost like reset, rewind to the beginning. And then there's a clock out, so you can use this as a master and have a second one of these synced up to it through this clock out here. Sorry, this is clock in, clock out. So whichever one you want to have controlled by this, you would take this clock out and hook that up to the clock in of the other one. And then it does line up speed pretty well. It doesn't basically keep them in the same step unless you manually just kind of put them there. I guess what you would do is just flick this at the right time and it would basically start and then be in sync step by step. But anyway, let's just get on with this. Let's say though, we wanted this kick drum only play when we wanted it to. That would be hooking it up something like this. Hook it up to an individual gate, 2, 3, 4, and then an individual gate again. Hopefully it'll let me do this. I didn't actually try that. Nope, doesn't do it. Okay, so we need to be on all gates. This could probably be sent to something else that merges them together. And then I think merge might even handle that, although that really deals with polyphony. But there are some gate mixers and stuff that you can try to do that with. I'm going to just go with this because one thing we can do, this has a level input. And these controller sliders come out here, on out, like controller out. I'll put it on blue. Hate it when it does that. Started dragging the module around rather than the cable. Let's hook that up here to level. And what I'm going to try to do is the same thing, where I turn these all the way down. And hopefully we'll just hear a kick on steps 1 and 5. Now it's kind of cutting off, probably because our decay time Let's slow down the speed a bit here. No, there, I didn't have them all the way down. If you have them all the way down, you don't hear them. Which of course is this controller out hooked up to the level of the kick. So basically it's kind of like works best with a single instrument step sequencer. Now let's speed it up. Too fast, it cuts off your decay time. And you have some trouble. That's kind of like the problem. What you can do is put an envelope in between, or really, actually, since the decay time is the trouble, just turn down your decay time here. All right. Now let's see if we can speed it up. Well, one thing here is that bend time is high. I'm going to turn bend off. Turn up decay. Yeah, the bend time was high. So you got to make adjustments in time to make sure of it. Because when the next step comes up that the kick drum plays, it's going to go to attack again. And if the decay or the bend envelope isn't finished, you're going to hear an artifact snap and also just a sudden change in level. So yeah, there we go. Now, just wanted to show you that. That's something to play with. What I'm going to do is hook this back up because I'm going to add some more drums. And it's just far more convenient to deal with MIDI in working with them. There will be some modules that I'll be showing in some sets, not Befaco, but in other sets where you do have more like a piano roll type of sequencer view that if you're more comfortable with that than the step sequencer. Okay, so here is our kick. I'm going to turn up its bend again a little bit. All right, and I'll just have velocity governing level. I just wanted to show you could have the other bit, but depending on what sound you're looking for, you may not want velocity controlling the other things. So next I'm going to show you noise. There's a cool noise generator. Let me get its name. It's called Noise Plethora. That does a lot of different types of noise. And we saw, like, in series 1, during like the snare and kick drum episodes, where you could use various flavors of noise: white noise, pink noise, red noise, brown noise, and there's even blue and violet noises there, that give you different kinds of timbres with accentuation of frequencies in different parts of the spectrum that you can shape and stuff. But they were pretty static noises. This has more variety. In fact, this is more than just what we call noise and synthesis. These are noises, in general. But I'm going to start basic here with this bottom one. There's really 3 sections here that give you 3 varieties of noises, and the bottom section has 3 outputs. One is for a gritty type of noise, as it calls it. I'm going to plug it in here. Now I'm going to turn it up here. Oop, we're not hearing anything just yet. I think we need to turn up this here. Okay, so that's our gritty noise. Now, there is here a cutoff, a selection of type of filter, low pass, band pass, or high pass, and there is resonance that you could put on it. We talk about filtering in series 1, so if you don't know about filtering, it's good to check out that episode. But in this case, this goes a little further than what we had. In VCV, you only have the low pass and high pass filters. This is now adding band pass, which is basically you will pass frequencies in a certain range that you select using cutoff, and then the width of that range of frequencies that it passes is selected by your resonance. As you turn this up, the more narrow it gets. So let's do that. Oh, I had turned this down. So it's sounding pretty similar. So I move the cutoff. Now we're hearing something kind of mid-range. If I turn up the resonance, we'll hear more of a focus on that frequency area. But we still hear plenty of that grit in the sound. And then here, I want to check this. This channel CV. I haven't really worked with that yet to see what that does. But this is also a channel CV. Perhaps this is for these 2 outputs separately. We'll experiment with it and see. But anyway, this is our filtered noise. And then this output is kind of more of a cleaner noise. Now, I was messing with these and I wasn't getting anything. Sometimes these dials are only effective when something is hooked up to their inlets, so we'll see. Although on the gritty sound, this did directly give it level. I'm trying to keep the noise a little bit quieter so it's not invasive to the ears. Let's try some things out here. Let's say we want to do some of this noise on C#3. Now, I played with this earlier. I just got to see if I remember I was doing something else. Let's see what gate does to this. You can turn it on with that, but it's pretty much an on and off. So you would have to shape it with an envelope. But I have an alternative that I'm going to show you later. Now let's see this. Yeah, I have not figured this one out yet. Let's see. I'm going to hook that up like that, and this I'm going to hook up to velocity. See if we can figure out what this one does. If anybody has something to add about this dial here, you can let me know in the comments section. Not hearing difference there on the gritty noise. This is just white noise, and it looks like these don't affect it at all. Uh-huh. We're getting different cutoffs. Oh, this does say cutoff. It was so small, I thought it said channel. So this is cutoff CV. So yeah, you can have different things change what your cutoff is. Apparently there's no inlet for adjusting resonance. Because this just says, sorry, I have to zoom in to get the small type. Grit quality. Okay. It seems to be more of loudness. So when we're on this outlet here, it seems to be a finer grit and more of it there. Okay. I'm going to disconnect these for now, because I'm going to show you another way of kind of controlling this. But before we do that, let's at least hear these other noises. So these three deal with this bottom section, the bottom third here, and this one, the middle. There is a cutoff here. And of course you have low pass, high pass, band pass. There, that's band pass. So wherever the cutoff is, that's the frequency region it passes. And I believe there's resonance right here. We're focusing in on that. And this is CV input right here, and a dial saying how much this CV input affects the resonance. So there you do have some control over how much the resonance is affected. Now, what you also have here, and what I'll probably do is put this on high pass and turn the cutoff down so we're mostly passing most of the, turn it all the way down. So we're passing the whole noise here. Nothing's being filtered out. We have inlets as well as dials to control aspects of the sound. I guess I could stand to turn this up a little bit. Yeah. I'm trying to find a section there where there isn't a lot of effect. So it's giving you like a lot of like almost radio interference type noise. Now this dial There things seem to disappear, but let me try something. Okay, so it gets rid of pretty much like a lot of the wash of the noise. And so with this dial, you can focus on the different noise effects. Pretty cool stuff. Now let's go with this one. Once again, we have cutoff. And when it's low pass and it's turned all the way up, we're pretty much not filtering anything. Controls CV amounts, controlling resonance, so just kind of like this one. Now we have once again this Y value, or YA and YA down here, seem to control how much of it is a wash and how much of it is kind of like particulate matter in the noise. And so you could combine both of these at the same time. Turn this up. And of course, what we could do is take volts per octave here, and use different keys of our keyboard. Now when we hit C, we're going to get kick drums, so I'll try to avoid that. But let's have different notes, select different noise patterns. The first one I hit was a kick drum, of course. Now, you can use cutoff with that. CV for the cutoff. Let's also plug that into volts per octave, so our pitch is basically going to select a filtered region of noise. Alright, so we'll probably want to turn this up so it has complete control over it. You should probably put these on bandpass so the cutoff region is what we hear. Alright, and then probably turn up the resonance a bit for each one. So the focus on that pitch region. Now I'm playing like a D above that C3. I'm going to go up chromatically. Now, it would be more pitch oriented if these weren't such varying noise types. If it was kind of like smooth noise, and I can achieve more of that with this Y, turning that down. There, I'm going down in pitch. I'm going to start high, go down chromatically. There's the kick. All right, so you see, if you wanted filtered noise to be playing the pitch that you're playing from the keyboard more accurately, you'll probably want to use one of these two down here, because the noises themselves are smoother enough more consistent, that you will hear more of a pitch. I'm going to disconnect these for now. I can demonstrate that by looks like here the white noise does not get affected by the cutoff, but let me just test that again just to make sure that's true. Yep. Go to the gritty, turn it up. And the cutoff does not affect it either. And the resonance is all the way up. So yeah, you have to use the filtered noise option. All right, so now all we need to do is take the cutoff, which is this one. I discovered. What is the color? I'm going to use yellow. And hook it up to volts per octave here. Now I'm going to play a D3, going up chromatically. So yeah, you can hear it there. All right, I am going to disconnect you and turn you off, and let's get back to percussion. I just wanted to give you a tour of this noise generator because I think it's pretty cool. It has a lot to it. Do we still have our kick? Yeah. All right, now there is another percussion module in Befaco that's useful. It's called Percussion. This one here. And what it is it has basically 5 channels, well, 4 channels to it. Your audio inputs up here and your triggers down here. These are really triggers, which are like on messages as opposed to gates that are on and off, because your off depends on your decay sliders here. So it gives you 4 decay sliders for audio inputs that are triggered by, a message saying on. Now, a gate can be used for that. So let's take our C sharp here. Because even though the gate sends on and off, it just simply won't, it'll ignore the off. It'll take the on message and it'll trigger the sound anyway. And what I'm going to do, try to make a snare with our filtered noise. Take red, meaning audio signal, out. This is just my own personal color coding that I fell into as a habit. Here, these are channel input. Now, decay time is how long the slope is to turning off. But you can also control the level coming in of your audio. Kind of like a little bit of a mixer. I prefer to use the outboard mixer here, though. So down here are inlets for your decay controls, so you can actually have something else influencing your decay times. And then these are outputs of individual envelopes, which is your decay times. So your decay settings here could be sent out, so something else that's controlling something else can be made to be consistent with these. These are your audio outs here. So one will be our snare. I'm going to try to make now. I succeeded earlier, so wait a second here. Have that hooked up. Okay, so our filter noise is going here. Channel 1. I want it to be red. And it's going to go here to input. I'll just turn it up a bit. Now this is C sharp is the gate coming in from MIDI to gate. I see it's triggering here, but our decay is all the way down. Also, I got to look at the settings here. I think our gate would also need to go to here. I believe, well, that's gritty quality, as it's called. Let's put this on bandpass. Okay, I'm going to double check all my connections here. Resonance I'm turning down a bit, but let's see. Okay, yeah, our audio's going in there. Let's test the audio connection first of all. Let's see if that's where. Yeah, we're not getting audio from this. Did it really need? Let's try it. Let's hook the gate up to here. See if it needs that. Oh, the gate. Okay, now I'm going to hit C sharp. Yep, it does need that to trigger it happening. And this is not having an effect. Oh, that's because it disconnected up here. Thought these gates let me hook up more than one destination. Yeah. Now we were hearing some snapping sound there when the decay was set too long. We need it short enough that the gate here. There we go. Let me try something. Oh, look at this. The audio input somehow became a gate. All right. This audio out from my snare, or what I want to be my snare, that I hooked up here just for test purposes, needs to go here. Now, there we go, finally. I get there in the end. Let's compare that to the kick, which is set to max volume. Tune it here. So yeah, you have to have this grit up for the filter noise somehow. Now, what we're going to use is a little bit of white noise here. We're going to put that on channel 2 over here. Hook up channel 2's output to our mixer. And let's see what happens. This should be triggered by D sharp 3. Oh, come on, do it. Okay, you're going here. Second one. Decays all the way down. Perfect hi-hat sound. The shorter the decay, the more of like a closed hi-hat tap sort of sound. So I have my C key going to C sharp, going to snare. Employ 2-finger playing here. I don't profess to be a keyboard percussionist. Turn up the snare, turn this down a bit. All right, there we go. Next, let's take our audio out from here. Oh, boy, I hate it when I do that. Okay, you're gonna go channel 3 up here. And this is gonna hook up to E on the keyboard. And this is our gritty sound. I believe that's all I have to hook up. No, we need to do the audio out here. Going into oh, okay. Double check this. This is our gritty sound. It is going in here. This gate is set to D sharp. I was hitting the wrong key. So C is kick over here. C sharp is snare. Or whatever. 80s type of thing. Or actually early 90s, I think. And then D closed hi-hat. More of an open hi-hat. Now these could be shaped even more, either from between these outputs in the mixer or between plethora and the inputs here on call or per call. Yeah, it's not per cell, it's per call. You can put like a VCF in, shape some sounds. Or I'm going to show you one thing after we add one more drum sound that I found today that would be cool. Well, it's something I've used before, but let's see if we could take one of these and make them useful in our little drum kit here. Now I want this to come in on an E. So what I do is find that key on the keyboard, E3. You know, I want them all in chromatic order. I can click here, hit E3, and there we go. It's assigned to it. Now this is E3 controlling this noise here. Now, this is most effective when this Y is turned down. And of course, overall, it's most effective when you have the audio output hooked up to the mixer. I see it coming in there, at least gate-wise. Boy, we're starting to get all cabled up here. I did do this earlier today. You can have all these different noise outputs operating at the same time. I'm going to do this on high pass. I want to get some sort of cymbal sort of sound. Okay, our audio out is hooked up there. I see it lit up. Then the gate lights up here. So we're good to that point. The decay is up that we should be hearing stuff. Audio output. How about the mixer dial? Okay, let's say we're happy with that. It would probably take a little more tweaking. I could quickly switch it to this one. There we go. So now our kit is all right. Now, velocity control so far is only affecting our kick. Now, we can add channel strips down here. Strip, which is in Befaco. And what we're going to do is take our snare, just going left in there. We go into here left. Then we can come out of here stereo. I'm going to move our mixer and our audio modules down here. A little bit. Okay, and now I want to hook these up. Here, left and right. Because with this channel strip for this snare sound, let's make sure our output 1 going into left here. Oh, that's right. These always come up with the volume all the way down. Turn them all the way up because this is our mixer here. You can also click this on the channel strip, which will give you automatic, like maximum level without clipping. Now, because we have this hooked up stereo to here, even though our signal's coming in mono, we can pan like my snares to be a little left of center so that they can complement the hi-hat. Do another channel strip here. I know this is getting messy cable-wise. Go up to View and check your cable tensions to see if lowering that can help visibility, or maybe even raising it. Raising it basically means tighter tension, less sag, so to speak. All right, so we're coming out of Kickall here. We want to put that in there, and then we're going to hook two up here for left, right input on channel 2 there. Kick is going to stay centered mono. No reason to hook it up here. Yeah, unless you want to use the 3-band EQ on it. Let's put this a little right. Balance the snare. And let's put this on here as well to keep it consistent. There we go. And now what we can do, there's a level input here that we can hook up to velocity. Now basically velocity values are going to be going to all these at the same time. But the snare and the hi-hat are only going to sound when those gates are triggered up here. So even though other velocity values are going to them when they're hit, the velocity should be there at the same time as the gate, and therefore you do get velocity response. All right, so that's the next one to do, is our open hi-hat. I pan that the same as the closed hi-hat because technically are kind of like the same instrument. Basically, I like having kick centered and then snare and hi-hat balancing each other, left and right. So just a little left and a little right. Oh, wrong one. Wrong one. I'll have to hook that up again later. The 4th channel of Percussion. Okay. There we go. And here we go. Turned up. Turn you on. Let's hear it. Yep, we have everything so far. Now just that last symbol to go. Alrighty. Let's see here. I unhooked it from here. So that goes in there. Left. Now I'm going to show you another advantage to using these channel strips. I'm going to leave this one centered. because this type of cymbal is usually used less frequently, and so having it dangling out there to one side or the other is really... There we go, pretty evenly balanced and level. All right, so we're getting all sounds, and I was going to show you this. Now I know it's not easy to see with all the cable mess here. This one, for example, the brights are where it lives, so I would turn down the low on the 3-band EQ here, crisping it up a bit. And turning up the mid kind of gives it a little more body, shimmer body, as if that's a turn. Now, we can brighten up these hi-hats here by turning mid down and turning the low off. Even though technically in mixing you don't want to amplify with an EQ, and synthesis you kind of can. They're now brighter. Then for our kick, lowering the mid tightens it up a bit. So there we go. I'm not a finger drummer. There you go. So anyway, hopefully you found this useful. Even if you didn't, if you feel so genuinely inclined, please do hit the like button. Let me know in the comment section if you have any suggestions or questions. If you have any ideas, or let me know what you think of the Befaco set of instruments we've been covering so far, or the ones in this episode. I especially think it's easier doing some synth drums this way than by building them like I did in season 1. It's good to know that stuff from season 1 principle wise. But then again, in this case, depending on which noises you use, and there's such a variety here, you're going to be having different types of specific sounds. Like this kind of like open hollow snare is different than like a snappy tight snare. All of it's going to sound electronic and somewhat vintage, you know, but that's Eurorack for you, and VCV Rack models Eurorack. That's kind of like what's going to happen. With other modules in Befaco, I might as well at least just mention a few words about them quick, just so you know, because a lot of them we didn't use. We did use the VCO, as well as its Pony VCO companion. This is Rampage. It's basically makes ramps, and you have 4 of them. You can use those as delay slopes or decay slopes, because it lets you use them in multiple directions, and yeah, it's kind of like a robust version of Percussion that we were using that can serve other purposes as well. But as you see, it has its inlets there, and the different ramps here. Of course, those could be used for CV values, not just pitch, not just audio signals. A plus B plus C is exactly as it sounds. It's basically a CV adder not necessarily a mixer, although you can set the amounts for the things that you're adding together. Could be really useful for adding together oscillators that you can regulate the certain amount that's added. Now you get an A1, B1, C1, and an A2, B2, C2. And of course you can take their sums out for the first set of three as well as the second set of three. So it's almost like it would be great for a 3 oscillator set, and then they could be separated so that you could have stereo outputs, so that you know, these oscillators and these oscillators could all be kind of part of the same sound, but with slight differences, so you do get a stereo effect. Over here is spring reverb. Oh, let me just throw that in for you so you can hear it. I'll just let it be on the whole kit for now. But if you were taking the time to get together, you know, that kit that you want and so forth, you might take a little more time than what I'm doing here. We do have our stereo output here, and this is, it does have 2 inputs and so forth, but the outputs is like a mix or a dry, or a wet, excuse me, a wet option. So you either get the mix governed by this mix here, or you could get the full wet spring reverb option. So this isn't really stereo because you don't have, I mean, the 2 inputs are not coupled with 2 outputs. They're, I think, 2 different factors of the same thing. So we're going to go out the mix out and just take a left in, just to demonstrate it. This could also be somewhere in your signal chain on individual drums. And it's not just for drums. So let me just play our kick, for example. Okay. Okay, let's see. Did I do it right? I went into CV in 1. That's not correct. CV in 1 controls this fader here. We can do this. And of course your mix is wet dry mix. Turn up the wet. Now it does have a high pass filter, so it is cutting out lows here. They were hearing more of the mids of the snare coming in. And that type of sound gives you that real springy effect. So in this kind of drum kit, I might just put that on, you know, the sounds specifically that, you know, would benefit from it. There are other reverbs to get to, not in Befaco, but in other libraries as we go. Okay, so spring reverb right there. What else is there? We have a slew limiter. Well, here's a mixer first. Well, yeah, let's do the slew limiter. I've used this before to slew velocity values, but you can also use it on audio. But that would be kind of like smoothing out waveforms in a way, removing some harmonic material. So it can be kind of used like a VCF, but it sounds a little bit different. and there's no resonance on it specifically. So mixer here is a 4-channel mixer. You can control each channel, but it mixes to one channel. It doesn't mix to stereo. It has a mix out and then an inversion out, an inverted mix out, inverse of your mix. So you got that, and then there's a dual attenuator. Yeah, kind of like a dual mixer in a way. Let me just look at it real quick here. I have looked at it before, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. Basically an in and out. It's not a mixer in that case because it doesn't mix to a combined signal, kind of like an in and an out. And basically you have an attenuator, which is kind of like a level control, reduce levels, and then an offset, which I haven't experimented with, but it sounds to me like what that does is it basically maybe puts a little delay on the attenuation. So you could have like an attack get through and then attenuate sustain. Here's Percussion, we use that today. This is kind of like it's called Hexbix VCA. It's like for 6 different channels that you can mix them like individual VCAs. Let me see real quick here. We might as well finish this up because I'd like to move on to audible instruments next time. But you get your channel 1 VCA control here. This is your input, audio input. And then output level. So you have output level control as well as here's your VCA input, and this controls it's coming in. So it's kind of like what we used before if you're using multiple oscillators and setting levels for each one, and then having like CV inputs so velocity could come in, and you can have them come in and basically control the voltage, which ends up being amplitude of those oscillators. Channel 1 output, although one thing I see here is going down here. It looks like this may add things together. Sorry, don't have a definite answer on that for you, but that arrow sure seems to indicate that. I haven't tried that yet. Haven't had a call for it. We have, yeah, that's that. And then here is a crossfade where you can control one CV value going to another or an audio signal going to another and have them crossfade into each other over time that you set. And you basically have 2 channels of that going on there. So you could do 2 at once. Kickall we use today. Kick drum and toms, all sorts of percussive sounds actually. And then we have a shaping modulator. Oh yeah, this is kind of like what I was talking about earlier, where it's a combination, kind of like a step sequencer, in that you can turn these steps on, off, or reset, which means when it gets to that step, it goes back to the beginning. So it's almost like an 8-step trigger sequencer, really, the speed control and so forth. But it says it's part oscillator. I've tried hooking volts per octave up here, and I don't know. I wasn't getting oscillator. If anyone has some tips on this, please let me know. But I was using this as kind of like an 8-step sequencer, although I found the other one that I showed you more effective. The where is it? I believe it's this one here that we used earlier. Yep. No, that's, yeah. Yeah, I just never got its name. Mux. minor or something like that. That one, in other words. Alrighty, so as we're getting through these, let's see here. Sampling modulated, that's what we just looked at. Morphemer. I don't think I've used that one yet. You know, that might be something to play with and get back to you on. I haven't, yeah. I've actually taken out all of them, but that one's not coming to mind right now, so must have forgotten it. We have our ADSR, and this mixer, very useful. Stereo, really 5-channel mixer. Fifth is on maximum. The other 4 can be controlled with the level knobs. And yeah, here's our Muxlixer. That's the one we use today. Pretty useful for percussion, especially. Not really a mixer per se. Okay, and then here we have our, it's just called Mix. This one I haven't looked at yet. It looks like it's just in and out. These don't have inputs on them. Kind of like on-off switches. Oh, this looks like it might be a real simple step gate. But it just has mix in, it says. I don't know about that. I'm going to have to look at that later. I'm not going to do a third episode of Befaco now. We're going to move on to audible instruments in the next episode, but some of these I may revisit. Here's the noise generator that, well, it's called Noise Plethora that we use today. Very useful. Stereo strip. Yeah, the channel strip is stereo. Here's our Pony VCO we've used in the last 2 episodes. Good sounding. I like it for FM synthesis. And then finally, last but not least, we have our monitor meter, as it's called, MTR. This, in its description, it says like a level visualizer. Like basically you have settings here for the inputs, and it allows you to visualize levels on these knobs, as well as kind of control them. And then, you know, they come out their own outputs, I believe. Yeah, channel 1 output, channel 2 output. So it's really most useful as like level control, but also just visualizing them. All right, folks, I think that was a pretty good, between these 3 episodes, a pretty good overview of Befaco, and it is a very useful set of modules. And let me know what you think of them in the comment section. And until next time, take care and stay free.